What do you think about the Proud Boys?
I'd say they're a little cringe, bordering on extremely cringe, depending on how charitable I'm feeling that day.
Okay. So, do you think it's more of like a LARP group, or do you think they're effective?
No, I think they're brown shirts. I think they're like fashy patrols that go to stir shit. They like to take videos of themselves fighting Antifa, make themselves out to be the victim. They like starting fist fights and rile people up because it drives popular support for far right groups. Yeah, I think they're pretty good at what they do. Getting Enrique Tarrio to deflect against criticisms of white supremacy was a pretty good move. Enrique's a smart guy. He's also a Fed apparently, but that's going to be about 40% of any people in an extremist group. And yeah, I don't know. I think they're a pretty big issue. I hope that they stop. That would be nice.
Weren't they designed though to go to these events and protect speakers and such, or attendees of events?
I think they always say that. Well, no, I think it was Gavin McGinnis started them, and they were like, "We're here to beat people up." There's some speech of his. The Proud Boys was like a men's club that he put together to have the manly men start fights with Antifa or whatever the fuck else. I mean, they might say they want to go to places to protect, like, I don't know, Milo Yiannopoulos or whatever, but we can all say that, right? I mean, Antifa says they protect the city. That probably doesn't mean much to you. So,
No,
I think they like to start fights because it's good for their movement.
I mean, have Proud Boy fights in general, were for the most part, were they the ones who started it, or the ones who reacted?
Pretty sure
And
they start fights all the time. I don't have like a breakdown, like a point by point, but like I'm pretty sure there have been like very demonstrated examples of them starting those fights. But like, wait, I want to ask though, because I'm genuinely curious. Would you
yeah,
care either way?
what do you mean?
Would
Like,
you
would I become a
care?
Proud Boy?
Well,
Is that what you're asking?
if they started the fights or if they were merely responding to them, would it make a difference to you?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, I think so. If there is a big speaker coming to a campus or something, and we either know Antifa is there, or Antifa is likely to be there, or there's a possibility, and Proud Boys show up, and if they show up and start beating someone up because they're wearing an Antifa shirt or holding a Antifa flag or something, I think that's a different story than reacting to violence from Antifa. If
yeah, well,
Antifa's throwing shit at attendees, or you know violently attacking these attendees, and the Proud Boys go in there and kick the crap out of Antifa, I think that's a completely different story than going up to someone and fighting them because they're holding an Antifa flag.
no, I'd agree. I think so. I mean, I don't have like a breakdown of all of their fights in front of me, but I do know at least that I've covered situations where they have deliberately initiated violence. They're certainly intent on escalating violence. That's clear enough. They definitely don't go to places to like calm people down and decrease the likelihood of violence. They do go there, um, like looking for a fight, right? I mean, they even brag about that in their stuff. Plus, the private chat messages, I think some were leaked where they were doing some like uh Nazi shit, or not, maybe like white supremacist shit, and a bunch of their members are kind of like also aligned with those groups. I mean, I don't know. If you want to promote safety on campuses, I don't think the Proud Boys are going to decrease the likelihood of violence when you head on over there.
All right, so we are. I just checked the time finally. We are a little over an hour, so I do want to have a couple quick things, quick responses.
Yeah,
Not
hit me
not
up.
to like get you on anything, but I don't.
No, not me
Um.
on. We're having
So
fun.
yeah. So first of all, with the Proud Boys going to these events, and with Kyle right now showing up in Kenosha, don't you think that, or do you think? Sorry. Do you think that these are people going to this because the police aren't doing their job, or that these event security aren't doing their job?
Yes, no, that I agree with 100%.
Okay.
The police have there was a long history of the police turning their back on demonstrations between the left and the right because they want violence between the two groups. They do this with police riots, race riots. They did this, I think, in Kenosha as well. I do think that the police often do a terrible job controlling protests in this country.
Do you think that in 2020, during the 2020 riots, do you think that generally the National Guard should have been present? Because I know a lot of governors were, or at least a couple of governors, I know it was happening, that they were not they were not sending the National Guard into these cities.
What they needed was well, most of the BLM protests didn't need nobody showing up. For the places where things did get a little nasty, the issue that I have is that a good implementation of the National Guard could theoretically be a good thing. If all they did was formed walls and protected residential streets, that would be an acceptable use of their power, I think. You do have to control riots responsibly. If they had enough police to do that themselves, then they should have. Without knowing like the specific considerations, it's hard to say on a case-by-case basis. The issue is that when people were calling for the National Guard, they weren't calling for the Guard to come in to control the riots. They were calling the Guard to come in and kill the rioters. Even Trump was saying that. Like, just go in and shoot them, treat them like enemies. And if that's the case, then
That's kind of funny, though.
I don't think it's very funny for a leader of a nation to say they should kill protesters.
I mean, it's probably not very, you know, responsible or any of that, but I think it's pretty funny. When he said if the looting starts, the shooting, or the looting starts, the shooting starts.
I mean, I guess, I don't know, maybe in some like,
I mean, I think that's that political violence we were talking about in the beginning, where something is needed to deter this failure to abide by, you know, and it's not like they're not abiding by some stupid law, but if they're like looting from someone else's business or someone's house and they're smashing windows and burning things down, I feel like
then you should still not send the army
in. I think some sort of strong pushback was needed.
Like what?
I mean, I'm not sure exactly. I'm not a professional in this area. I'm sure there are people who it's their job to decide that. But
well, it's a First Amendment right, isn't it, to organize?
Not to smash windows or burn things or loot.
Sure, but none of those warrant the death penalty, do they?
No, but they warrant riot control and getting people out and possibly curfews, which I know this is, you know, I guess technically authoritarian stuff, but I mean, I think that we have to protect people who live here. You know, I mean,
sure.
people who agree with BLM were having their businesses destroyed.
Sure, but what you're talking about right there is riot control. If the goal is to steer the riots towards less destructive avenues, to reduce the number of people hurt, you know, so-and-so, that is how you control riots well. Historically, in all developed countries, that's just how you do it, you know. You send the Guard in to just go ahead and shoot everyone. I mean, this is a... Well, it's a somewhat less effective way of handling.
Probably.
Things.
I mean, I also don't know. Like, I get how people could take that, but I think that was more of like a metaphor. Like, I don't think he legitimately wanted people to go up and start firing into crowds of protesters who were becoming so unruly.
Don't you think it's interesting that this conversation started with you thinking the media should be sued for calling Rittenhouse white supremacist, but now you're sort of a little blasé about the president of the United States just casually saying we should shoot?
Well, that was kind of I don't think it's funny to ruin a young kid's life who self-defended himself and
Why
was
not?
braver than any of us, and braver than the cops who were there.
If the army gunning down protesters is funny, then Rittenhouse's life being ruined is hysterical.
It's a funny metaphor. I don't think it would necessarily be funny for that to actually happen.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, we, you know, all.
I think it's funny that he tweeted that. Like, I find a lot of things that Trump. Well, no, Biden didn't do anything funny. Biden's a retard.
Oh, he's a very funny guy. He farted in front of the Queen recently or something, and and you know, the issue with the humor bit here, right? I mean, you say it's funny, but like it's funny in that it's audaciously awful, or.
Because I think it received a lot of shock, especially coming from Trump. I mean, Trump tweeted a lot of things that received a lot of attention. People were, you know, shocked and scared or whatever. Like, I think that's, I mean,
not really the mark of a good president, though, right? I mean, you know, you can get your funny men on Netflix, but when it comes to the presidency, I think.
I would argue that it's funnier that it was coming from the president. I mean, it didn't result in anything like that, did it?
Well, I mean, Barr was in the process of using sedition charges against BLM protesters, which would have been a violation of the First Amendment. And that one general that the Republicans hate, what's his name? The one who said he wants to understand white rage.
Was it Mattis?
Milley. He actually had to push Trump to not send in the army to shoot protesters. So, I mean, it very well could have happened were it not for the cucked the feminazis on hand, you know. I think that this is one of the concerns I have, I'm not levying any charges, but this is one of the concerns I have, I think, with the whole, like, comedy in politics. I mean, I do think politics is funny. I laugh about a lot of bad shit here, but there has to be something underlying it, you know? So when you say, because I'll just say from my perspective, when you say, you know, oh, it was funny when
Yeah.
he made that comment when the looting starts, I genuinely don't know if you just think it's funny because it's bad, you think it's funny because it's good, or you don't know the answer yourself. It comes off to me, and this is just my perspective, like you have no opinions outside of kind of nihilistic, cowardly inability to own a strict set of positions that you would be willing to defend. That's how it appears to me, like cowardice masking itself as a sort of ironic detachment. But I could be wrong. That's just the impression that I get.